So Kaz, thanks very much for your time today to talk a bit about the launch of PS3. It seems that there's been a bit of internal changes in attitude across Sony Computer Entertainment since E3. And here we're seeing sort of, very much a more positive attitude to the PS3 launch. What would be your comments on that?
Well, I think that we've always had a strategy by making sure that when we make announcements, when we talk about our product, we do so because there's something concrete to talk about, there's something great to show, and that we can show progress in the games that we showed, for example, between E3 and the Tokyo Game Show. We don't want to make announcements that really have no meaning. And since E3, what we've been focused on really is a strategy to make sure that we have great software that's continued to get developed, and now we're able to show the fruits of our labor to everybody that's gathered here at the Tokyo Game Show and here at the PlayStation Lounge.
So what are you most pleased about the presence that you have here at TGS on the show floor?
I think the most important thing for us is for us to be able to appeal to, for the first time really, to the consumers that are coming to the Tokyo Game Show, for them to really take the controllers into their own hands and experience PlayStation 3 really for the first time. Because the media have had chances and opportunities in the past. Now it's all about the consumers at the Tokyo Game Show, and the consumer reaction is going to be very important for us as well, obviously.
Specifically talking about the hardware itself that is on the show floor, do you have like final debug units that are there, and so essentially it's the first time that we've been able to play on the actual PS3 hardware rather than a dev kit, right?
That's correct. We had some of the units, some of the units at E3. Some of the demonstrations were running on very early prototypes of the PlayStation 3. The games that you're playing here tonight at the PlayStation Lounge, as well as the Tokyo Game Show, are running on the test units.
Sure. So, can you just sort of give us an update? I mean, is PlayStation the most profitable part of the Sony business in general? To what extent, and is it going to continue?
Well, I think it depends on how you look at it, which fiscal year you're talking about, or whether you're talking about a 5-year cycle, for example. We're very profitable and making huge contributions in some years. Other years, since we're in the R&D phase, for example, and we need to make a lot of investments, you're not going to see the level of profitability that you would see when we're in a year where we're really getting the benefits of the seeds that we've really planted. But I'd like to think that, given the overall length and the span that we've been in business, that we're making a huge contribution to the overall Sony bottom line.
Obviously, we're seeing a cool lineup here of first-party software, and we're seeing some excellent third-party things. But also, I mean, some IP is starting to sort of go away to rival formats now. How important do you think that franchises like GTA are? Is it going to sort of be a bit of a burden having that on launch on multiple platforms?
I think the most important thing at the end of the day is what kind of compelling entertainment content you can bring into the hands of the consumer. Because as we all know, the cliche, but it's a truism, is that content is king. The most important thing for us, and exclusive content is important, but more importantly, being able to provide a platform for the content creators to really get excited about, so that they can take full advantage of what we bring to the creators in terms of a technological palette. And I'd like to think that the PlayStation 3 really brings so much more in terms of the raw processing power, so much more in terms of what we have in terms of storage capacity for the Bluray drive. I think those things are inherently going to allow the content creators to have a PlayStation 3 version, perhaps of the same franchise, but when you compare the PlayStation 3 version to any other version of the same game, it's a completely different entertainment experience. And that in and of itself really is an exclusive entertainment experience for the consumers when they're enjoying a game on the PlayStation 3 as compared to any other console.
In Sony's defense, perhaps, Microsoft has been keen to just sort of talk about your Blu-ray drive as a movies-only format, whereas in fact, obviously, all games are going to come on this Blu-ray disc, which isn't just high capacity, it's more sort of streaming conducive as well, which is a big feature. So just moving on to another technical feature, which is the controller. Obviously, the 6-axis, or what are you calling it now?
I think we're officially calling it the wireless controller for PlayStation 3.
Okay, fair enough. But so obviously we have this great new functionality built into every controller. But let's talk a bit about the loss of rumble. I mean, Sony has been saying since E3 that this is due to the new motion-sensitive technology. But sort of, a lot of people would argue that actually it's because of the deal with the whole situation with immersion. I mean, in light of what we were talking about earlier with Sony's sort of, less arrogant attitude nowadays, if you like, why can't Sony just sort of reach a settlement and get rumble back into these controllers?
The issue when we're talking about trying to have motion sensing as well as a vibration feature is trying to isolate the vibration from the motion sensors. Is it technically feasible? Absolutely. But the other problem or the balancing act you need to do is to be able to present the controller to the consumer at an affordable price. We have one controller in the box, but many consumers want to go out and get an extra controller. And if we have to come up with technology, which you can technically do, to isolate the vibration from the sensing, but if that means that the controllers are going to be so expensive, then we're again doing a consumer a huge disservice by coming up with a controller that is not very affordable. So it's a balancing act that we need to do, and we felt that ultimately the vibration feature, which is a feedback feature, as compared to the motion sensing, which is an input functionality. When you compare the two, we decided that the input device or methodology is a lot more important than feedback, and that's been a strategic decision that we made.
Going back to the movies side of things, Blu-ray and HD DVD is obviously undecided right now, which is going to sort of win. But I mean, hypothetically speaking, if Blu-ray were to fail as a movie format, where would that leave PS3 from a multimedia point of view?
I think that the most important thing from where I stand is really establishing PlayStation 3 as the next generation interactive entertainment format that happens to use a storage medium called Blu-ray. So the more install base we can create, the more acceptance we can create in the consumers of the PlayStation 3 is my objective with the launch of the PlayStation 3. Now, as a great byproduct of that, and a fantastic byproduct as a matter of fact, it also plays Blu-ray players, which means that more Blu-ray players are also in the hands of the consumer. But my mission in life is to really, again, establish PlayStation 3 and not necessarily try to establish Blu-ray. Now, the two go hand in hand because PS3 happens to use Blu-ray, but my priorities are somewhat different from, perhaps other parts of Sony who are tasked with establishing Blu-ray as a format and not necessarily PlayStation 3. And that's the beauty of a format like Blu-ray that has two faces, one as a game format and another as a movie storage format.
So just to wrap up then, I mean, obviously everyone wants to get their hand on PS3 for launch, but we're only talking about 500,000 units between America and Japan. So, I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to get one on day one. Is that going to get easier as we move towards the holiday season?
We're going to try everything we can to get as many units into the hands of the consumers as possible for launch, and obviously heading into the holiday season as well. We're going to make sure that we ramp up the production. And that's one of the reasons why we strategically decided also to delay the European launch so that we can concentrate and focus more on the Japanese market and also the North American market. But I think really the most important thing for us again is not only the launch period, but again being able to bring compelling software that really keeps the platform vibrant and fresh for the long term, so that 6 years from now, 7 years from now, we have a strong platform that the consumers can really embrace and enjoy again for a long period of time.
Sure. Listen, thanks again for your time today, Kaz, and best of luck with the launch of PS3.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.